I want to talk about patience today. More specifically, I want to talk about the lack of patience that a lot of NBA teams seem to exhibit when it comes to developing young talent. I looked across the league this year and I saw several young budding stars in the NBA that are on new teams in new environments because they didn't move at a pace that was fast enough for the teams that they played on prior. And it kind of got me thinking, why are teams so impatient with young talent? It's almost like if you don't come into the league and show immediate flashes of superstardom within 1 or 2 years, then you just kind of get tossed to the side. And the more I think about that, the less I like it. A lot of these players have come from teams that were rebuilding and are still rebuilding. And it's just funny to me that you traded away premier talent, or you let premier talent walk. And in most cases, you're worse off for that, because they didn't become a superstar at your pace. You just drop them like a bad habit. I look at Christian Wood, for example. Before he was a Rocket, he was a Piston. And we all know that the Pistons are horrible when it comes to not only just developing players, but just managing their team in general. It's one of the worst ran organizations in the history of anything. But I just find it funny how they just gave up on the man. Even though in his last season as a Piston, he showed flashes of absolute greatness. And honestly, it wasn't even just flashes. Like, the man was a great player. He was coming into his own. They just dumped him off to Houston, where, barring injury, he was probably going to be seriously contending with Julius Randle for Most Improved Player of the Year. Now they have Jeremy Grant, who the Sixers gave up on. I felt like they gave up on him way too early. And then the Nuggets let walk, which in a way I can understand that a little bit more. They just wanted to kind of go in a different direction. They weren't rebuilding at the time. So I get that. Kevin Porter Jr. He had his issues early on in Cleveland. But I think Kevin Porter Jr. is a star in this league. And I think that had Cleveland not given up on that man, they'd be far more formidable right now. Cameron Payne. The Bulls flat out told that man that he was not built for the NBA. after what, 2 seasons? Maybe 3. And what does he go do? Oh, nothing major. He just goes and aids heavily in the Suns punching their ticket to the NBA Finals this year, while the Bulls, well, they're definitely on the opposite end of the spectrum. So how would the scope of those teams change if they just exhibited a little patience? It's interesting when you look at it, because I feel like it's unacceptable the pace at which teams just say, fuck you, you're not moving fast enough for me. And again, if you're in a win now situation, that's a little bit more understandable. But if you rebuilding, you got all the time in the world. You ain't got no reason to be so impatient. Your whole goal is to stockpile young talent and try to develop that young talent into a team that can win. That's what you in it for in the rebuilding stage. So how the hell are you that impatient? And then you lose out on very, very good talent and end up worse off than you were before. Not everybody develops at the same rate. Everybody's not going to come into the league and be Luka Doncic. Not everybody's going to come into the league and be Trae Young or LeBron James or LaMelo Ball or Zion Williamson. That's not going to happen. But you have to allow time. You're not going to tell me this player showed up to practice every day. These players showed up to practice every day. Christian Wood, Kevin Porter Jr. You're not going to tell me that they showed up to practice and you did not see the greatness in them. You're not going to tell me that. Patience. I think a lot of these teams need a lot more of that. And I think if they find it and exhibit it, they'll end up being better off. That's it.